Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on YouTube today for episode 177. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, Philly Bucs fan himself, pounding his chest pretty hard right now, my guy, Evan Wanish, rocking the Phillies jersey. What's going on, man?
Nothing. So there's a backstory behind it. It's
that you don't do laundry.
that. So I wore this on opening day, and the Phillies won. And then I wore it on Saturday, and the Phillies won. And then I wore it yesterday, and the Phillies won. So basically, I have to keep wearing this until they lose. And they're playing right now. They're playing the Mets. So Matt Matera, suck it. Okay, the Mets. The Mets do not want this smoke.
Now, do you strictly have to wear it on game days? Is it an everyday kind of deal?
Oh, yeah, it's a game day. It's a game day thing.
All
but
right,
with baseball,
sure.
I mean, you're basically playing every day anyway. So
Right. I just want to make sure you're not sweating through it because at a
Oh,
certain
no.
point it sounds disrespectful. But believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a little bit to talk about today. Top of our agenda is wide receiver Antonio Brown. We're just a couple weeks away from the NFL draft, and Antonio Brown has yet to be signed by Tampa Bay. There's a lot of reports coming out over the last week that we're going to catch you up on. One of the many is that the Bucs and AB are not in a similar headspace when it comes to that price. They haven't really been able to hammer out a deal just yet. And obviously the Bucs have made it clear that they are, pretty good at doing that so far this free agency. So what's the holdup here? We know that, Antonio Brown, we talked about before how there might be some interest from other teams. He's one of those guys that you're not really sure if a team wants to take a chance on him because you don't know what the market looks like. You heard about Seattle, Russell Wilson really saying that he wants to make a run at AB. And then there's a report to kind of add fuel to the fire of all these other reports is that, well, Seattle hasn't really made a strong push. And then it, begs the question I just brought up. Is Seattle one of those teams that's kind of waiting around to find out what's going to happen? It seems like from an outside perspective, he's trying to barter his price a little bit higher than it is, but nobody really knows, and we're not going to find out until we really know and pen is put to paper. But what's going on with Antonio Brown, Evan?
Yeah, I think a lot of this stems from just how much do you trust the guy, and I think it's clear that a lot of the NFL doesn't necessarily have complete trust in him, or else I think he'd be signed by now. I mean, you're talking about a guy that put up over 400 yards and I believe 4 touchdowns in the regular season with half of the season. So, I mean, you're talking about, a really productive player, but he's a productive player that comes with baggage. And he's also, 32 years old. So there's definitely, it's not just as clear cut as you would think. So, I mean, based on that report, you see some guys get $7-8 million a year. Maybe Brown's asking for that, and the Bucs are at $3-4 million maybe with not much guarantees. I don't know, but if I had to guess, I would say that's the sort of the spot I would guess. I think Seattle, any team that gets involved is going to be in the same spot almost. So I think it's really going to come down to how long is Antonio Brown willing to wait? Waiting for that perfect offer until he just caves in and signs with somebody, whether that's Tampa Bay, whether that's Seattle, whether that's Baltimore, teams like that. How long until he just decides, hey, whatever, just end it. And, we get a team, you get a 1-year deal, stay clean, right? Stay out of trouble for a year, hit the market next year when that salary cap is skyrocketing, have another productive year, and then you can get, you'll be 33, 34 by then, but you can get maybe a 2-year deal to close out your career for 10, 11 mil a year, maybe. That's, it's a nice little payday.
And that's the thing. You got to look at the point of view of Antonio Brown. I mean, the guy's just coming off of a Super Bowl. he's pretty instrumental to how this offense was able to run later on in the season. He fit in quite well. He's obviously got that natural chemistry with Tom Brady. So, like, for him, it makes sense for him to hold out, wait a little bit longer, try and drive his price up, because like you had mentioned, in 2 more years, depending on where he ends up signing, he's 34 years old. And listen, I know he's 32 and he is able to bring to the table what he did. Like, he's still athletic as ever. He's still a great wide receiver, and he could probably be a wide receiver 1 on a lot of teams in the NFL. But it's kind of like, high risk, high reward. If you wait 2 more years and you really show out in Tampa Bay or wherever you end up signing, is a team going to pay a 34-year-old wide receiver what he thinks he's worth? So I kind of get, that aspect of it. But again, that's just where it becomes a waiting game, because as we brought up before, you don't really know what this market looks like. Have we heard of any other teams that might be interested other than Seattle, or no?
No, I mean, I listed Baltimore there because I think Baltimore had some interest in him when he was coming back from suspension. I haven't heard anything else. I mean, Kansas City, maybe. I mean, I think they just bring back DeMarcus Robinson, I think. Yeah. So maybe not. Green Bay, still maybe. They haven't signed. I don't know if they signed a single free agent. Other than that, can't really think of anything else, if you want me honest. I think it would have to be a very specific situation. I think Antonio Brown wants to keep winning, so I think it's going to have to be a title contender with a good quarterback, not any question marks really at quarterback. And all those teams I just listed really don't have any questions at quarterback. So, like I said, if I had to guess, I would say the 3 most likely teams are Tampa Bay, Seattle, and Baltimore. And I still have the feeling that at the end of the day, he's going to return to Tampa. I just have a feeling I think it'll be soon. I think we're coming to a close. I'm not saying it's going to happen this week, but I think it'll be before the draft or maybe it won't be. And a lot of teams are maybe looking at how the draft turns out for them. Maybe, if Baltimore or Seattle can't land a wide receiver where they want, do they then go out after the draft and say, hey, we'll give you, $5 million and all of it's guaranteed? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the Bucs have an eye on a wide receiver in the, second or third round, and they think, oh, this guy is, can fit our offense perfect. He's a clear upgrade from AB. He's younger, all that, and they don't get him. Do they come back and say, okay, like we'll do that? But if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be before the draft. I think they want him locked up. I think they want him back. I think Antonio Brown wants to be back. So I do think that that'll end up returning at the end of the day.
Yeah, and really quick, shout out to one of our moderators, our guy Kevin522. He chimes in and says AB will probably end up signing after the draft. And I, can't be scared of that theory. Because we've talked about the possibility of certain signings taking a long time. I know we talked about Ndamukong Suh. The Bucs made that announcement official today. We talked about it last week, but we kind of expected him to take a little bit longer. So it's no surprise here when you're in a situation like AB, it's going to take time. And I will tell you, he definitely seems like he wants to make it work. We haven't mentioned yet, but the Bucs put out a social media post saying that, they've successfully re-signed all 22 of their starters. I think the first NFL team to do that since 1974, coming off of the Super Bowl.
77, I think, or 79.
Back in the 70s.
Definitely in the 70s. It was in the 70s.
So basically, for the first time since the Bucs have been relevant, they're the first team in a while to sign all 22 starters off of a Super Bowl victory. Well, AB is top comment on that post on Instagram right now, and he just commented, sign AB. And linebacker Devin White chimed back in. He reminded him that basically the Bucs are waiting on him. So, right. It kind of goes back to what we had talked about with that discussion of what his price would be. And it seems like the ball is in his court, but he's really trying to make this work.
Yeah, I think both sides are, and that's why I think ultimately it gets done. I think, like I said, I just don't. It's pretty cut and dry. I think it's just about meeting in the middle right now, and I think eventually they will. So, we had something in the chat from Lane Johnston. It's a draft question. Which, let me say one thing though. It's hard to believe that the draft is like almost like 3 weeks away.
Yeah,
like it's like that's insane to me. I can't literally time is like fake, I guess. Like I get maybe that's what happens when like I mean, and the same thing with free agency. Like when you're playing so far like deep into the playoffs, your season's over, and then next thing you know, the parade happens, and then it dies down, and it's mid-February already.
Yeah.
So like it literally it's not something you're used to. So I can't believe the draft is this month. It is quickly approaching. We'll have a lot of coverage starting probably next week. We'll have ton of draft coverage where I can hopefully, actually say words right. So he said, guys, I got a question or statement. Every time I try to watch film of Javonte Williams, the other running back looks better with better hands. Your thoughts on Michael Carter? I like Michael Carter. I like Williams slightly better. I just think Williams has a higher ceiling than Carter, but I think they're both good backs. Williams, you'd probably have to pick a 32 if you wanted him. Maybe you could move back if you want to move back a few picks, pick up an extra pick or two and then pick him. But I don't think he's going to last very long in the second round. Michael Carter's a guy who could be in play if they were to not pick a running back in the first round. I think if they're sitting there at 64, I could see them picking a guy like Michael Carter. I think he could be a solid fit for the offense. I just think Javonte Williams is the better back right now, and he has the better ceiling, but I definitely think Michael Carter could contribute. I just don't know. I think there are some better options, but, I mean, he's not the worst option for sure.
Checking back into the live chat, our guy Adam Bubb says, what's up? And Fresh the Killer says, Kadarius Toney is a beast. What are your guys' thoughts on him? This big wide receiver out of the University of Florida. And I know we talked about the possibility of the Bucs taking a wide receiver at 32. First, do you think he ends up being there? And second, if he is he a guy on the Bucs board?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be there. I really don't. There's a few wide receiver needy teams in front of the Bucs. I'm not saying the Bucs are a wide receiver needy team, but there are a few of them, like the Saints, the Packers. There's some teams there that could use a receiver. And I mean, Baltimore, it's like we just talked about. They could use a wide receiver. So does he make sense there? I think he makes sense in a lot of those spots. I'm not sure if he makes it to 32. If he does, it would be interesting because to me, I don't know exactly how well he fits because of his size. He's a smaller receiver where they seem to like the mold of a Chris Godwin / Tyler Johnson, like that, 6'2" or so, can block a little bit. They seem to like those guys. And I could believe Kadarius Toney is 5'11" or something like that. Scotty Miller's obviously smaller, but he's only used for really one thing. You'd be asking Kadarius Toney to do a lot more than just one thing. So it'd be interesting to see. And I mean, if you were to pick him, you would assume that would mean that this is likely Chris Godwin's last year in Tampa, which I've suspected a little bit, which is why we even had discussions at picking a wide receiver at 32. If that happens, you guys can be excited about this year for having, you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Kadarius Toney, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, but you also have to face the reality that pick likely means the Bucs know Godwin won't be there next year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's kind of the angle. I know we talked about the Antonio Brown deal possibly getting done before the draft, and if it does, I think it answers a lot of questions about what they would do with 32 in regards to picking a wide receiver. But let's say it doesn't. Let's say they're without Antonio Brown, and you still got Chris Godwin, probably going to hit the market next year. It opens the door a little bit, but I think the Antonio Brown deal and ultimately what they think Chris Godwin's going to do, which at this point, we both kind of think he's just going to take his money and walk elsewhere. So I will say that if they end up signing Antonio Brown, maybe you could still take a wide receiver at 32. I don't know if it's a guy like Toney, but when you're still faced with the reality of Chris Godwin getting paid a lot of money next year, it's still a way to address the position that you're going to need to get to eventually. And if you re-sign a guy like Antonio Brown to 2 years, AB is not that bad of a wide receiver too in this league.
Yeah, exactly. The Vortex said, do you guys prefer Toney or Rondell Moore? Both two incredible athletes that could really be special in the slot. Well, the Bucs slot wide receiver is Chris Godwin. He plays in this offense. a slot wide receiver is not your typical slot wide receiver. It's not like a New England where he's 5'10" and can really have some speed. In a Bruce Arians offense, your slot wide receiver has to block and he has to be a bigger body. And they ask their slot wide receivers to do a lot, which is why Larry Fitzgerald in Arizona all them years was so productive in Bruce Arians' offense. He was willing to do it. And then Chris Godwin moved right into that Larry Fitzgerald role. So I think Chris Godwin will remain in that role. Tony, like I said, he's a first-round guy, but Rondale Moore, maybe he makes it to 64. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's likely, but maybe if he does, I mean, he is an exciting player. He's a smaller guy too. He's a quick guy. I think his ceiling is definitely very high, but I just don't know if he makes it to 64. And I also wouldn't really be comfortable picking that type of player at 32. So
a couple more shout outs in the live chat really quickly. Our guys Chase, Frank G checking in. What's going on, fellas? Didn't say hey earlier, but we did now. Let me ask you one more question about Antonio Brown before we kind of look at some of the statements made by Bruce Arians and Jason Light this week. Somebody had brought up a great point on Twitter when we had posted this link. We talked about Antonio Brown being in a position where he does want to up his price. He wants to, cash out as much as he can because potentially it's the last big multi-year contract he can sign in his career. Now, with the market being murky because of off the field stuff, you don't really know what that looks like. But I also think what it's going to come down to, if he ends up staying in Tampa Bay, is how badly he wants to play with Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady, in the short amount of time that they've played together, he's already taken him to the pinnacle, already got him his ring, right? He basically brought him back into the NFL, and he's been a great addition to this team since then. But, I think the option's there for him to take less money to stick around in Tampa Bay and obviously keep playing with TB12, who is showing no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, I mean, but that also, to me, that begs the question is, does he then think of it as, well, I finally did this. Now let me go prove that I can do it with somebody else now. Right. Let me go prove that, like Tom Brady's great, but it's not all Tom Brady. Like it's still me. It's AB. And we know the type of ego he has and the person he is. So, so maybe he looks at it as, look, I got my ring. Sure, but I can prove that I can do this. Like I can. So maybe, who knows? I mean, I do think if he comes back to Tampa Bay, it's not going to be at $7-8 million a year.
Oh, no way.
I wouldn't expect it. Unless they're using voidable years.
Which, I was going to say, you think the Bucs have some fun and just give them, 4 voidable years?
No, you see, like that's how you get in trouble, like the Saints. Everybody says, "Oh, we're gonna be like the Saints in 2-3 years." No, they're not. Unless they do some dumb stuff like give voidable years to a 32-year-old Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But I think it's the Bucs are sticking to their price. I think they're sticking to their price because they know that they're one of the few teams that are actually interested in him. Like it's not like there's 10 teams knocking down his door right now. This isn't a bidding war situation. So, right. Kevin asks, are you guys going to do a live draft special, first round, of course, or just a post draft overview? So
probably both.
Yeah, well, I remember last year you were live on James's channel.
Yeah. It's a lot different when you're picking in the early teens as opposed to 32.
Yeah, 32. We might not have a lot of people up. That's going to be like right 11:45, midnight probably.
On a school night too, right? Normally first night of the draft's on Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday. Yeah, so it's not even Friday. So I mean, probably I don't know about the first live first round, but we'll definitely be doing some like post draft stuff, when it's all said and done.
I can tell you that our buddy, I think it's almost guaranteed that our buddy James, Mr. Bucs Nation here on YouTube is going to be live streaming.
Well, yeah, you're more if you text James at 9 a.m., you're more likely to receive a text back at 3 a.m. than you are at
by like noon.
Yeah, you're more likely to receive a text back at the most random hour of the night or in the morning. And because I don't know what his sleep schedule is, but it's incredibly weird.
That's James, man. The guy is nocturnal. And I feel like if you're 100% full-time content creator, at least you're balling, 10K subs like James is. When you're on that level, your sleep sleep is for the weak. What did Steve Harvey say in that motivational video that pops up everywhere every now and again? Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day.
Yeah, because people on the West Coast have to wake up because the East Coast is already making money, right?
Yeah, there we go. So
James is on the East Coast, though, so he's good.
Biz610 says, greetings, gentlemen. How you doing, my friend? Adam Bubb says he'll be there if we are. Maybe. Definite maybe.
Appreciate it, though. I appreciate the dedication, for sure.
So Todd E. Oaks has a question.
Yes.
And
the answer is
I
yes.
know you're ready to get into this one. After this, we'll kind of transition into maybe a little bit more of the draft, but I know Bruce Arians had made a couple of comments about the draft last week. We'll talk about those in a minute. But Todd's question is, what do you think of the Buccaneers drafting Jamie Newman from Wake Forest?
The answer is yes. And so here's a thing. So full disclosure, I had literally, I think I saved the tweet actually. The night of the draft, the night of the last few rounds. I right after, I don't even know if I say that. Oh, I did. Cool. So the night the draft was over, right? 7:47 p.m. on April 25th, 2020. So the draft literally maybe was over for probably, I don't know, like a half hour, 20 minutes. And I said, yes, I just did a mock simulation for the Bucs for 2021. And yes, I just gave them Jamie Newman, the future at QB after Tom Brady. That should tell you all what I think about Jamie Newman. So here's the story. He played at Wake Forest, transferred to Georgia this year, but opted out of the season because of all the COVID stuff. So he was supposed to play in Georgia with Todd Monken's offense. Man, oh man, that would have been fun. And instead, he didn't play at all. And instead, he didn't play at all. Obviously, his draft stock did not improve at all. And it actually seems to be going down a little bit, to be honest. It seems to be really plummeting, which I don't know. I'm not sure if he's had his pro day yet or not, but he's got a live arm. He's got a good size, good build. I think if you're looking, he's definitely not ready. So this type of situation is perfect for him if he can sit 2 years. But I would definitely, if he's there in the 5th round, do it. Yeah, absolutely do it. I'm a big Jamie Newman fan. I literally texted a buddy of mine right after when the draft was over last year, and I was like, keep an eye on Jamie Newman, man. So I would keep an eye on him. He's got good mobility, great size. Like I said, he's tall. He can throw the deep ball. Needs some work with his mechanics. His throwing motion is weird, and I can't describe it because that's how weird it is. You just got to look at it, kind of.
I don't know if you were checking it out. Dan Orlovsky was on Pat McAfee's show this week, and he basically explained the difference between like an orthodox throwing motion and an unorthodox throwing motion that, a lot of scouts look at, and it makes them question a guy's mechanics. And I guess all of it, if you're watching on video, all of it has to do with the bend of the elbow, just like this. And I mean, obviously I'm not a top quarterback scout, but
I am, so that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah. I don't know if you caught that, but it's pretty interesting if you guys haven't gotten it. I'm not a huge fan of Orlovsky, but he was pretty good on McAfee this week.
Okay, I have not caught it, but like I said, if you guys want to go and see what I'm talking about, if you look, it's just a little strange. That's all. It's not like a completely normal throwing motion. So, but yes, to answer that question, that long-winded answer, absolutely, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in this class. He's not the best. I'll admit that. It's not like I have him as QB3. Like I have him where like respectable, but I'd feel better taking Jamie Newman in the 5th round than I would taking Kyle Trask in the 2nd round. I would feel much better.
Oh yeah. Now, speaking of Kyle Trask, I guess we can kind of get into what was talked about. First things first, Bruce Arians and Jason Light sat down with the media last week, and BA kind of opened the door for, I don't know, different possibilities of what could happen at 32. He basically said something along the lines of, listen, if the right guy's there, we're going to get him. And he didn't shy away from how that might involve a quarterback. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Trey Lance will be a great fit. The only problem is he's not going to be there. That's,
So
yeah,
I mean, just to clear it up for anybody who's curious in the chat, you are not a Kyle Trask guy at all.
not really. I don't. I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you had a great year at Florida and this and that and that." Look, it's all about like traits and stuff, and like I just look at him and like his ceiling to me is like Alex Smith. Like that, like a solid starter. That's that's like the best possible scenario, I think, for Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
That's not even what I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a career backup, like a career, just a decent backup that can maybe win you a game or two, but like a backup nonetheless. I just don't really see it. And then he has Kyle Pitts there, and Pitts catches everything, and Kadarius Toney. And, like he had a lot of talent on that Florida team, so he had a great year, but he also had a ton of talent. So, Ben Leeper said, I still like Mon the most as a developmental guy. I've seen him mocked as high as the second recently, though. Yeah, Mon's draft stock. Yeah, you can. I like Kellen Mond, but there's a reason I've been on Jamie Newman, because Kellen Mond, I have Kellen Mond ranked ahead of Newman, but there's a reason that I've not even talked about Mond. You can forget about him unless they're picking him at 64. I don't think he's going to be there even in the third round. So his stock has really been rising. I think a team maybe like New England, maybe a team like Washington, I could definitely see a team like that picking him. So I don't think Kellen Mond is going to be there. Another Todd says sign AB. Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. There's a few sign ABs in the chat here. So
oh yeah, man. No, I mean, it's funny because let's just talk about it one more time to kind of put a cap on it. The whole Antonio Brown thing, when this discussion first started, we did an episode that talked about the futures of Leonard Fournette and Antonio Brown, and we felt a hell of a lot better about AB coming back than we did Leonard Fournette. And obviously Leonard Fournette comes back on a team-friendly deal. He talked about how there were other teams that reached out to him. Tampa Bay humbled him a little bit, quote unquote, and he took less to stay here ultimately. But, I mean, as far as AB goes, I still kind of have that good-ish feeling that he'll end up being back in Tampa Bay. I know Leonard Fournette was a different story, and listen, you can't win them all, but I still think AB comes back, and I still think it's the right move for Tampa.
Yeah, I think you can't keep everybody, but I do think that Brown will come back. It's funny, yeah, like you said, that was like 2 weeks ago we were talking about that. We're like, yeah. I think Brown's gonna be back. I think Fournette's not. Like it's funny what a difference 2 weeks makes. So
I definitely didn't expect to have them sign Fournette by now. Like I still kind of thought, with a possibility of playoff Lenny hitting the road right now, we still wouldn't know if he's coming back or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, there's a lot of free agents out there still.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a ton. And a lot of it obviously has to do with the salary cap. I was sort of expecting that. Like a guy like, as far as running backs go, like James Conner. Hey, NFL God 99. Thanks a lot, man.
$2 going to the Wendy's Fund. He says he tries to donate every stream. You're the man, brother. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support. Welcome to the stream. Glad to see you tuned in tonight.
So I lost my train of thought. NFL God. That's
what money does to Evan.
Right?
Listen, you think he's listening to you, and then you mention some sort of compensation. His ears perk up a little bit. But I mean, even if he really has a point he's trying to make, and you mention a little bit of money over there, even if it's $1.99 from our guy NFL God, he totally just derails himself.
Got a whole lot of money. Whole lot of money. Got a whole that makes sense, don't it? It makes sense that I would use that song. It makes sense I would use that song.
Chase makes a good point about playoff Lenny. I think that's who we were talking about before we got interrupted. I'm just messing. But Chase brings up a good point. He says, I need to see playoff Lenny in the regular season. And that's kind of where I am with it. Like, I remember when the move was made, obviously I wasn't super excited. I kind of put my chips in the pile of him not being here, and that's fine. Listen, I'll own up to it. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And one of the things that I said is that he can take his 3.5 yards per carry and go play somewhere else. Now, am I happy that he's back? Yes. I'll probably buy a playoff Lenny t-shirt because that playoff run was astounding.
I want to get one of the hats.
Yeah, there you go. You're a hat kind of guy. But listen, man, like, I need to see it show up in the regular season. He had that one big run against the Panthers. He had a couple of other okay runs, but I mean, what did he do in the regular season other than almost get cut? And
I was just about to say that.
It's a fair and honest take. Like, what did he give us in the regular season before he was ultimately humbled, almost cut, and thrust into an RB1 role because Ronald Jones kind of fell out at the end of the season?
Yeah, I know. I mean, Ben Leeper actually comes up with a great point there. He said, do you guys think Lenny's lack of regular season production was just him trying to get used to the offense or just simply trying harder in the playoffs? Well, every player, the intensity level in the playoffs is going to be go through the roof, right? Yeah. So everybody knows could be your last game. So you got to go balls to the wall. I do think I do think part of it is that he's just giving more of an effort in the postseason. Every player gives more of an effort in the postseason. I'm not just saying that he doesn't care. He does care, but every player is going to give more of an effort.
It's a legitimate
you're going to see, every
those games just mean so much more.
Yeah, you're going to see the best that the other team has to offer. So you got to give your best. A little bit of it is maybe the first like 6-7 weeks, I would say. I would use the getting used to the offense thing. I know he missed some time. I think he didn't play in the Green Bay game. I don't think. I think he missed the Green Bay game. He missed some time. But
you mean the regular season game?
Yeah, the regular season. Yeah, because I know he missed some time in midway through, and then obviously was scratched later on, but he just wasn't like, I mean, you're talking late in the year and he still wasn't that great. Like, I mean, you're talking weeks after weeks 10 or so, like he wasn't that great. And then he had a solid playoff run. Like, I think I wouldn't oversimplify it. Like he had a regular season, good playoff run. That's what it is. I mean, if you get that from him again next year, you're going to be fine. And he'll walk, but who cares?
I will also say that Fournette's role in this offense might change a little bit next year, depending on how the Bucs address that last running back spot. Depending on who they sign, we've heard a little bit coming out of Fournette's camp about how he is catching a shit ton of passes every single day. And I think
hear that. Are you his agent or something?
Yeah, right. No, that's just a little bit of rumbling I had seen here and there.
A little scoop from Redicus.
I don't think it's hard to believe. I don't think it's hard to believe that they might try and, throw Leonard Fournette the ball a little bit more than they would a guy like Ronald Jones next season.
Yeah, to me, it all depends on who's that last running back, right? Who's that last?
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, who's that last running back? Is it Najee Harris?
Right.
Because if it's Najee Harris, like Leonard Fournette might not see many snaps. If is it Travis Etienne? If it's Travis Etienne, Leonard Fournette might not see many snaps.
But what if it's not any of those guys and they just kind of sign a free agent?
I would be pretty surprised if they sign a free agent
over cheap on the vet
overdraft
to replace LaShawn McCoy.
Over drafting a running back, because I think they literally, you sign a free agent, you have one running back on the roster next year.
Yeah,
set. So if you sign a free agent it's going to be a 1-year deal. So if you sign a free agent next year, you're under contract, you have one running back. I don't know if they want to do that. So I would guess that at some point they're going to draft a running back. And I think it all depends on who that running back is, as to whether I think Leonard Fournette could receive more pass catching opportunities. I mean, he's a better pass catcher than Ronald Jones, but that's not saying much.
Ben made a good point. He said, "Listen,
than Ronald Jones."
Ben made a good point. He said, "Listen, to play devil's advocate, we heard that Ronald Jones was working on his hands last season, and look how that one turned out." But also a good draft question from Vortex regarding that running back position. Who is your guys' favorite option at running back in the draft? Where do you think we should pick a back? I think we've talked extensively about taking a guy at 32. We know kind of the mainstays there, but let's look at second and third round, because you said it wouldn't shock you if the Bucs go and look at running backs there. Are there any guys that jump out to you that you still think could be good pickups for Tampa Bay?
Well, like we talked about, Michael Carter from UNC. We talked about him. And then Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis, one of my favorite guys. I saw it. Kenneth Gainwell from Kenneth Gainwell.
I didn't say anything.
Here.
Quack quack.
You're acting like a Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis. I'm all
Oh,
flabbergasted
take your
now.
time. Take your time. Take a deep
And
breath.
then, well, also, I mean, Jared Patterson from Buffalo. He's not a second or third round guy. I think he's more of a fourth round type guy, but I think he's actually pretty underrated. And I think he's a solid running back. So we'll see what happens there. I would expect him to pick one early and definitely in the first 4 rounds. That is, and I mean, Bruce Arians didn't rule it out completely. I mean, he was asked like literally, does the signing of Leonard Fournette, like, does it mean that you're not going to draft a running back at 32 if a Najee Harris or Travis Etienne is there? And he said, like, no, like that's not going to change it. So I mean, they didn't use those names, obviously, but if Etienne or Harris is there and everybody else that's expected to be gone is gone, and Etienne or Harris is there, they should be the pick.
Yeah.
If it like a Jalen Phillips is there, which he's not going to be, I promise you, his stock has completely skyrocketed. It wouldn't surprise me if Jalen Phillips went as high as like 10 at this point. But if he's there, then obviously I would take the defensive end over the running back. But assuming that everybody that's supposed to be gone is gone, and Harris and Etienne are the ones available, I would choose one of them. So Vortex does say I'd even take a late round flyer on a guy like Puka Williams. Yeah, Puka's a fun player. I like I said, I think he's another guy you could get maybe in that 4th, 5th round. I keep reminding a lot of people, a big thing to remember with this draft, the Bucs are picking so late that their picks are essentially picking for the next round.
Yeah.
They're essentially
your second round pick at 64 is pretty much all going to have a 3rd, 4th, 5th round rate on those guys that are going to be available.
Exactly. And it also allows them to pick some out of the box things. So don't be surprised if their 3rd round pick is a guy you've never heard of. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. So
our guy HB Piz Jugs, Dalton checking in. What's
Dalton,
going on, buddy?
yeah,
He says,
what's up,
hey,
buddy?
guys. Emily Campagno, I think I don't know if I said that correctly, but Emily says, hi guys, was very high on Antonio Brown, but I'm starting to think he really does not want to be here. As much as I would love to see him play for us, I'm starting to doubt, ? We covered most of it at the top of the show, but I think at the end of the day, the holdup with Antonio Brown is he just wants to see how much money he can ultimately end up being paid. I think there's a choice to be made of, how much he wants to play with Tom Brady and if he'll take a little bit less to stay in Tampa Bay, because obviously, due to these reports, the Bucs don't have the money to pay him what he really wants to be paid. But the fact that his market is murky and you don't really know what other teams want to pay for him. You heard about Russell Wilson trying to make a push for him in Seattle, and that hasn't really gone anywhere. So it's kind of a wait-and-see period for everybody involved between Antonio Brown, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and any other team that might have interest in him at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she said, does he want to be here? We've talked about it, like it seems like he wants to be here. And I think there is mutual interest there for sure.
Yeah.
But also, like, he would like to get paid a little bit. Like, he's not looking for top money. He realizes that, but he'd like to get paid. Kevin says Gainwell is the best pass catching running back in this draft class, but he's an early to mid 3rd round pick. So Bucs may have to overdraft him a bit or maneuver a bit. Like I said, what's the difference between picking him at 64 and picking him in the mid 3rd round? Like, it's the same thing. It is. I would have no issues picking Kenneth Gainwell at 64. He's totally worth it. It is the same exact thing. So, what's up, guys? Is Sam Darnold a threat in the NFC South? Well, I don't know.
Listen. I wanted to bring this up. A couple of moves being made today by some NFC South rivals. Carolina Panthers traded a couple of picks. A little bit of a.
Speaking of picks.
It took me a second. Okay. My brain kind of flatted out. They get Sam Darnold from the Jets, and that trade pretty much shores up that the first 3 picks in the draft are going to be quarterbacks. But Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers, obviously, I think it means they're ready to move on from Teddy Bridgewater because he's going to be looking to start somewhere else. Listen, I know
if he's cut, does he come to Tampa as the backup?
I don't think he goes anywhere as a backup. I think he'll end up in like Denver.
I mean, maybe, but I'm just saying, if he's cut, does he come to Tampa as the backup?
Who the hell knows, man, at this point. I don't know. But Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers in that offense up there, I will say that Sam Darnold needed to get out of New York. I think any player that can get out of the Jets organization kind of needs to.
Yeah.
He's a guy that over 3 years in the NFL has like 10 career plays, it seems like, but it also seems like the consensus for a guy like Darnold is that he's a little bit underrated. Now, obviously, I don't know how that turns out for the Panthers. He's a guy who has thrown interceptions, like you brought up. So I don't know if it means they're an immediate threat. I think, they're an 8-9 team. Since I have to say that now, nobody can go 8-8 anymore. I think they're an 8-9 team at the end of the day. But, still competing for third place in the division. But I don't know. I'd like to see Darnold do well, but you really don't know. He does have some good wide receivers, though.
Our buddy Dalton says, I'd buy the eye patch from the new CFP logo if that's ever an option. Gee, I wonder if it's ever going to be an option, right?
Listen, hey, quit rushing me, all right? I've been in contact. I've been in contact with the sponsorship people. We actually talked the last discussion we had. We talked about T-shirts, and I'm thinking about 4 colors. All right, we're gonna do red. We're gonna do black like this one. We're gonna do a creamsicle orange, and we're gonna do like a heathered gray.
Ooh,
yeah, it'll have the CFP logo right there on the shirt. They're not gonna be all extra like the old ones we have. I think these ones, the simpler the better. So
this is gonna
have
be
something like that out here soon.
This is the first time I'm even hearing about this.
Yeah, there you go. Breaking news.
Some
hey, well, listen,
stuff.
Rhett Rappaport gets you the scoops. All right.
Yeah. Yep. When.
Thank you, Kevin.
No. I'm about to not let Kevin back in the stream.
He's a moderator. You can't do that.
Wow, there's got to be some rules for moderators. Then, if you had to cut a wide receiver or trade, who would it be? I say AB, but what's your take? Well, AB's not on the team, so I'd keep the group because if you're gonna say AB, let's just keep this group. When you were a top wide receiver from the 2010s, go get big money, kicked out of the league, then come back. You're gonna want money because that's what you're kind of used to.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody wants money. Everybody wants money. So he doesn't want to play for free. That's for sure. He wants to win.
He didn't put out a song with Rick Ross called "Not a Lot of Money." So it's
whole lot of money. That's a jammer, by the way. Just letting y'all know.
Yeah, it is. I threw it up on the story today, and I was listening to it a lot longer than I should have been.
It's a good song. I don't understand.
The Rick Ross remix is good. The one that he put out originally, I didn't like, but I like Rick Ross's verse.
The only threat in the NFC South. All right. You sound like the brother from Everybody Loves Raymond. I like their offense with Darnold and Teddy. 17-0. That's the spirit, Dalton. Evan growing that stash again. I see. Nice. Yeah, you recognize it. Game recognizes game. That's what that is. That's what that is. Thank you, Nestor. Appreciate it. Well, cut a wide receiver other than AB. Justin Watson. Let's do that one. I'm not cutting a good wide receiver. I know you're trying to bait me into that, and I'm not doing it. So, Justin Watson,
let me ask
goodbye.
You an off-the-wall question because it hasn't been talked about. And listen, we like to bring the best content we can here on CFP. So let's cover all of our bases. Since the last time we talked, the Buccaneers don't have Ryan Smith anymore. The last guy from that 2016 draft class is officially gone. The worst draft class in Bucs history?
Might be. Because, if you think about it, like, none of them, Ryan Smith is the only one that even made it to the end of his rookie contract.
He did get a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So he
but he was a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, he was like
they picked the kicker
5 and a special teams ace.
They picked the kicker, they did. It might be because. If you think about it, Ryan Smith was the only one that made it to the end of his rookie contract. All the other ones were released before the rookie deal was up. That's terrible. That really is I don't know what happened to Jason Light after that draft, but he transformed into like some superhuman. Because the next draft he landed O.J. Howard, Chris Godwin, and even like Justin Evans and Kendall Beckwith, 2 promising guys, and it just obviously didn't work out because of reasons with injuries and stuff. But and then later on, then he drafted, Vita Vea and Jordan Whitehead and Carlton Davis and Ronald Jones and then Vita Vea. I already named Vita Vea, didn't I? Devin White.
Well, he takes up that much space, so you might as well name him twice.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to Jason Light after that draft, but my God.
TB Buccaneers 21 says, "What's good, boys? How you doing, my friend?" So I brought up Ryan Smith because listen. if we have to nitpick an area where this Bucs team needs some help, I don't think we should be afraid to say that it's probably on special teams, because there were more than a few returns taken a little bit farther than they should have. Now, I don't think he's that big of a force on like kickoff returns, but how big of a hole does Ryan Smith leave on that special teams unit?
Yeah, well, he's not as big a force on kickoff returns because everybody seems to just kick it out of the end zone now. Like nobody seems to actually like return it. So I do think it's definitely valuable because special teams has been so bad in Tampa for so long.
Yeah.
That like it's finally been like Ryan Suckup finally stabilizes the kicking position, and that same year they win the Super Bowl. Like, coincidence? No. Like if they had Roberto Aguayo, they'd probably make the playoffs. It was still a good team, but they don't win the Super Bowl. So yeah, special teams matter. They will always matter. So I think that's important. Now you said that's one of the concerns. So Ryan Smith was a cornerback. The Bucs have nothing behind Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, Jamal Dean. Like they have nothing behind those guys. Herb Miller,
Ross Cockrell, and maybe that's it.
Ross Cockrell's a free agent. He's not under contract.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. And they have not brought him back.
Herb Miller, like yay, let's go Herb Miller. Like love you, Herb. Like love you. Had nothing against you as a dude, but like is you in my fourth corner? No, thanks. Like for a playoff contending Super Bowl contending team, like come on. It's they need to bring back Cockrell. Like they do. It's simple enough. He's still out there. He's not going to cost you.
No, he stepped up when he needed to, and he's a guy that we've talked about here on the show before.
He actually played actual cornerback, and Ryan Smith rarely played actual cornerback.
Yeah, Ryan Smith was your guy that you brought in when everybody else was injured. I know.
And when
that a little bit,
when he the Jacksonville game, I remember he got targeted by Gardner Minshew that whole time in the Jacksonville game. They almost lost that. He's not a great corner. And Chargers fans asked me, what are you getting in him? I said, if you want a corner, he's not going to solve any issues. But he's a really good special teams ace. And I'm actually a little surprised that the Buccaneers did not bring him back because I believe it is the same amount of money that he made last year. So maybe he just wanted to move on, get a bigger role. Maybe
he only signed for what, like $3.5 million?
Less than that. It was like 1.5 or something.
Oh man.
We need to draft some short tacklers in late rounds for special teams. Yeah, a lot of it is poor tackling. Can we acknowledge that Light built his roster from scratch with the exception of 3 guys? Yeah, he did. I mean, that's what when you take over a bad team like he did, like that's what you gotta do, and
the casual argument, for people who try and discredit Jason Light and what the Bucs were able to do in 2020 is, they bought a Super Bowl. They got Brady and they got all these players. Listen, dude, look at the depth chart. Look at the roster. That's what it boils down to. All you got to do is look at something beyond the surface level and you'll realize that Jason Light did a really good job building this team. Frank G, in the conversation of cornerbacks, some cheaper guys, some younger guys, a guy that we were really high on at one time was Parnell Motley. And I remember he was impressing all throughout training camp. He was looking pretty good for this team, and I don't remember. I think he ended up in San Francisco at the start of the season, right?
Yes, but now I believe he's with Denver. So,
do you think he's a guy maybe they extend the olive branch to? Because he's not anyone that I would mind having back.
But I think he's still with Denver. So,
yeah, never mind.
Sorry,
forget I said anything. I guess.
But yeah, I think he was waived by San Francisco, and then Denver picked him up. So I think he's still with Denver right now. So
wouldn't he only? I mean, since he was picked up, wouldn't he only be on contract through the end of the year? Like, isn't he technically a free agent or no?
I don't think he's a free agent right now.
No.
It says here December 16th, 2020, Motley was signed by the Denver Broncos off the 49ers practice squad. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to just keep somebody if he's an earned rights free agent or something like that.
Right.
Or exclusive rights free agent, whatever it is. So it's pretty easy to keep a guy like that. So yes, he did. He did get some snaps in Denver as a starting cornerback towards the end of the year. Actually played decent. It didn't do bad. I mean, obviously he's going to be pretty much buried on that depth chart now since they got some corner help. But he wouldn't have been a bad option. A lot of us were actually questioning when they cut Parnell Motley, or I mean, technically, they cut him. I hope to clear waivers, and he didn't. And they signed Ross Cockrell, and we were like, yeah, Cockrell's a solid piece, but man, you're losing Motley, and he's a pretty good player. Turns out, we're not as smart as them. I guess that's why we don't get paid as much.
So, what else is on your mind as far as Jason Light, Bruce Arians kind of talking to the media last week? We'll start to wrap things up here, but I know there's a couple of other talking points.
I got a source that says Jason Light will not draft a kicker.
Yeah.
My source is very close with Jason Light. Some would say that it came from the horse's mouth.
Wow.
I'm not gonna say anything,
dude.
But
listen, at the end of the day, I have to commend Jason Light for more than building this roster. The guy
is funny.
He is a professional troll. Okay, like
he knows when he screws up.
He admits when he screws up. He talks about it, obviously, but it's just so funny to me, like how much fun he seems to have on Twitter, because he seems like he's petty as hell, right? Like he knows when to admit that he screwed up, but he knows when to give himself credit, pound himself on the chest a little bit. But like, dude, he just messes with people, and I think he really knows how to get a rise out of this fan base, because I remember when he talked about how Blaine Gabbert could be the successor to Tom Brady. Like 110%, Jason Light is just messing with you, right? And I think he knows that. Obviously, he's not going to go out of his way to tell Blaine Gabbert something like that, but I think if you pick up on that sense of humor, it's a little bit implied. But I think after so many years of being in Tampa and seeing the rise that he's able to get out of Tampa Bay fans, he's developed a little bit of a troll personality. And listen, it's funny as hell.
Well, has that screwed Jason Light though? Because Blaine Gabbert sees that and he's like, "Oh, give me starter money then," and that's why he's not signed still. So, do they not have a quarterback?
Yeah,
because
so he
said
won't
that he
sign Blaine
Gabbert,
guy? And then Blaine Gabbert will go get bozo bucks from somebody else, right? New York's actually not even going to draft a quarterback. They're going to go ahead and trade that pick, and then they're going to take Blaine Gabbert and pay him $30 million a year.
I don't know. Daniel Jones ain't looking too good. Maybe it's the other New York team.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I remember a time, maybe in early 2019, when Jason Litt was being accused of having a Jameis Burner account.
Oh, dude.
Because a particular account on Twitter, which will never be named on this podcast.
He'll find this clip and he'll post it on Twitter anyway.
He did an interview, and it's funny that he legit sounds a little like Jason. Like, I'm not gonna lie, he sounds a little bit like him.
Our guys at Shooter in the Stash, they do a lot of like Tampa sports animation, and anytime they have Jason Light in a speaking role, they just get him to do it, and it's pretty good, man. But I remember it got
he was talking with Big Cat. Right?
It got all that attention because he was talking with Big Cat. I think they had him on the daytime show he does. It wasn't Pardon My Take. It was the Yak, the radio show that he did on Sirius? I think was what it was. But yeah, they had him on there, and then that's when this whole theory just got blown to hell. I think it was another podcast that came up with it first, but that was a fun time, I guess.
Yeah, it was something. It was. I actually forgot about that. There was people that legit thought it was Jason.
Oh
Light.
yeah. I remember people.
If it was Jason Light, why would he ever take an interview that would sound like him? Why would he ever do that? Like, come on. There's some stupid people out there. I don't know if anybody's
they actually
stupid.
Confirmed it. I don't remember what show. It might have been that show with Barstool, but I remember they pulled Jason Light up.
They had Jason Light sitting there, and they had
on
the
video
Twitter
conference,
account talking.
and they had the guy on the phone, and Light's waving at him and stuff.
Yeah,
that was a fun time. Listen, you know, you don't have to be a fan of this team for a super long time, but if you can remember stuff like that, you're one of the real ones, because that's when Tampa Bay was relevant for all the wrong reasons. 2019 was an interesting year because it felt like with Bruce Arians coming to town, we started to really get some traction. Maybe things are turning around, and then the season played out the way that it did, and the Bucs were remembered for a lot of the wrong things. But there's some good, Bucs Twitter moments throughout.
There's some funny stuff. Yeah, I mean, Bucs Twitter is like, I don't know. I might get some hate for this, but I think it's one of the worst places to be sometimes. I mean, it is, dude.
It's
there's sometimes after some moments I don't even want to touch this phone. Like, I don't even want to deal with it. I'll I was gonna mute the word Bucks. I was gonna mute all those words.
Oh man,
let it be, because there's sometimes, but not this year as much, but like there's been times I'm like, the endings, the games, I'm like, oh boy,
yeah.
like I do not. This is gonna be a long week.
Bucks Twitter at the end of the day, and this will kind of put a bow on it as we wrap up the show this evening. But Bucks Twitter is a beautiful cesspool of personalities,
Right.
egos,
Yeah.
legitimate analysts, and great journalists who do a really good job. I got to tell you, as insufferable as Bucks Twitter can be, the beat
There's
writers,
actually some good ones.
The Greg Allmans, the Jenna Lanes, the Rick
Right.
Strouds, those guys do a great job, and
Pewter
I look forward
Report.
to their content. Pewter Report, of course, we talk about them all the time, but it's just, I don't know, man. If you're not on Twitter and you like your news and you like it fast, it's a good place to be. But if you're into anything else beyond the fan level, just buckle up. It can be a lot of fun, but it's Twitter. It is the internet, and you got to remember that at the end of the day. Taking one last look at the live chat here, our buddy Kevin bringing us home, Frank G, Ben Leeper still hanging out with us. Thank you guys so much. I think our guy Dalton's still in here. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out live on YouTube this evening for episode 177. And if you're listening after the stream on any of our podcast outlets, we appreciate you over there as well. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Leave comments on videos. We upload a lot of great stuff this week. Not only do we have the podcast rolling out, but I uploaded a Tom Brady hype video.
Rocco says, what's up?
Oh, is that Rocco from Boston? I think it is, maybe.
Is it Rocco Sharipa?
I think that's Rocco
from Boston. We haven't done a call-in show in a while.
We haven't.
I
gotta kind of so the reason we haven't, and I guess we'll peel back the curtain here a little bit, is whenever we do call-in shows, we use Skype, and lately we've been doing Zoom. Now Zoom has a lot better audio quality for the show on your end, but Skype has the call-in feature. And, we're still kind of paying for it. So we could probably
just got to make that sacrifice. Yeah.
We could probably roll back a couple of episodes of the call-in show. It'll be back. Do not worry. But I got to tell you, I've been having a lot of fun with these live shows the regular way that we've been doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Rocco, football's had me busy. Now, when you say football, do you mean like soccer or actual football?
No, it's April. So he's probably in the weight room about this time of year.
He's gearing up, baby.
Yeah. They're getting ready getting ready for the spring game.
Trying to make that bread.
Padded practice coming back around.
He's trying to make that bread. He's trying to wreck fools.
Hell yeah. Go get it, Rocco. Thanks for checking us out, buddy. Hopefully you can catch the replay once this is done. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show and, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram with over 30,000 followers. What's up?
Real quick, it's an actual football season because this football season got pushed to spring because of COVID. So good luck to you.
Yeah, there you go. Go kick ass, Rocco. Hell yeah, buddy. Follow the show on social media. I just said that. You can find Evan on Instagram. Find him on Twitter at EvanNFL, where he's talking a lot about the Phillies lately, that team that's yet to lose, huh?
Let's go.
Let's
go,
season.
Phils.
The Fightins.
Let's go.
Last but not least, you can follow myself, Instagram, and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. Well, that'll do it for us. I think we've just about covered our bases. Thank you again to everybody who tuned into the live stream tonight. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check us out for more great Buccaneer content. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. And until next time, go Bucs.